Hi, this is 365801 and this video is all about some library books. Now once again I'm going to be reading some books from my library. If you have seen my first video, I introduced the fact that I had not read a lot from my library and I didn't know they had a lot of male romance, and I've been exploring that. This is all due to the fact that Catban Books did a wonderful reading vlog from her library, which included a lot more steamy titles, I think. I have not been able to find too many steamy titles, unfortunately, because you know I like the spice. But what I have been able to find is some interesting titles and some different titles, and I am always trying to branch out and vary my reading. And so I have been reading a few interesting titles, and in this little vlog I think I should have some good titles to read. As you can see in front of you, I have The House in the Cerulean Sea, which was included in the last video, but I didn't actually get a chance to read it, so I hope I'll be able to read this one soon. I also was able to pick up volume 4 of Heartstopper by Oseman. I am really excited to finally read volume 4. It came out last year and it was one that I really wanted to get, but I just never managed to pick it up. And I have recently read volumes 1, 2 and 3, and of course watched the Netflix drama version, which was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to finally reading Heartstopper volume 4. I also picked up The Whispers by Greg Howard. Now I'm not too sure what this is, but I think it's like a middle grade, which might include some LGBTQIA plus themes, may include also some sort of male romance aspect, but I do think it's a middle grade book, and that gets me kind of excited. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this is all about. I think it's supposed to be some sort of fantasy. There might be elements of bereavement or loss as themes as well. So I'm really excited about these three very different but slightly similar books. I also have a copy of a YA, which is the Aristotle and Dante second volume or sequel. I've not read the first one, but I do own an Amazon Kindle copy, so I should be able to read the first book and then hopefully be able to read the second book in audiobook form. So wish me luck on that one as well. I also have probably, I think, about 3 or 4 books on hold in the library, so when they come in I might be able to include them in this little mini vlog, but I might not, so we'll see if that makes it part 4 in the libraries. But this is anyway part 3, so I'm just going to be taking you along, and you can just see what I think of the books that I read from my library, which is a great resource, and I'm hoping that this will inspire you to go to your library and see what they have in your local library too, especially if it's male romance. And if you do have any good male romance books in your library, let me know in the comments down below. So yeah, let's see what I get to read first. So I am really happy. I've got this obviously to read, but just got back from the library and picked up Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is volume 4. So I have read volumes 1, 2 and 3. I own a physical copy of volume 1. I have digital copies of the first 3 volumes, but I've not yet read volume 4. So volume 4 is going to be all new to me, and I'm the very first person to get it out of the library. It's brand new. They only just purchased these for the library due to obviously the Netflix drama, and I'm very excited. It means I finally get to actually read this, so I can't wait. Actually, I just want to get right in there and just read it right now. I've got other things to do, but I'm like, oh, I want to read this. So yeah, this in terms of like how much I want to read things, this suddenly goes lower in the pile. Sorry, Heartstopper is there, because I literally just read volumes 1, 2 and 3 like a few weeks ago, so I really need to just jump straight back in again. So yeah, I'm going to. So I've had this, I just did a quick intro. I'm gonna read this now. I want to, I just can't hold myself back anymore. I know it's not going to take me very long as well, so I'll probably just read it and then tell you what I think. I do have some other things going on today that I need to get done, and I might need to film a wee quick video or something. So we'll see how I get on, but I think I'm just going to sit here and have a wee read. Also, I might sound a bit groggy. I don't know. I think sinuses are pretty bad. It's almost like the height of summer, so pollen and stuff. What are you gonna do, huh? What are you gonna do? I'm always trying to fix my sinuses. It's not gonna happen. Anyway, Heartstopper. Will this fix my sinuses? Probably not, but I'm gonna enjoy it anyway. I'll check in with you after I've read it. So I said I was just gonna sit here and read this, and I've just sat here and read this. It was quite emotional, especially when it got to the end of chapter 5. And just, well, actually chapter 6 was quite emotional as well, but the end of chapter 5 is quite an emotional one. This volume does have a lot of mentions of mental health and eating disorders, so make sure you bear that in mind if that's something. And it really is, even for me as well. I've like the older and older I've gotten, which is just the natural state of things, the more and more I am aware of things in my own past, and I'm like, oh, right, so you didn't have great mental health when you were that age, and that year, from that year to that year, you just did not eat at all, so probably mental health and eating disorders a thing in my own past. So yeah, this was quite, yeah, it was quite emotional, and it was also was good to see. I do think that the best thing about this is that it will be something that will help the generations, the younger generations now. So this is, I'm not the main target audience. I'm, probably about 20, 30 years older than the target audience for this. But I think that's the main selling point for this, is that you could put this into a library, like I've got this library book, and you could put it into a school library, and it will hopefully help teenagers who read it, if they access it there. It will help people who are queer, but it'll also help people who are going through lots of different issues. It makes me think of an animated series. It's kind of out there, but it's for like 10 to 14-year-olds. It's called Ask Lara, and it's an award-winning series. And I think there's about 30 episodes, and they're about 15 minutes, anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes long, these animated episodes. And they deal with all of these different issues of growing up, kind of like the pre-teen into the teen age. And I found that was like, wow, this is really great. I'm really glad that this is a resource that young people now can access. And it's a few years old now, but it kind of has that sort of same feel. And it has that same sort of animated quality. It's kind of like Heartstopper, slightly a younger version of Heartstopper, but also animated. So go check out Ask Lara. It's a really great animated series. If you have kids, yeah, I know who's watching me who has kids, but if you have children, young children in your life who might find that useful, this I would say is for the slightly older audience, from like a teenage audience, whereas Ask Lara is like this, but in animated form for short little episodes for the pre-teen into the teen, and it deals with the same kind of things. So I'm not saying this isn't. This is also like a story to tell. It's a good story, and it's very emotional, but it's also kind of educational. It's that whole thing of being educational but also entertaining there at the same time. It was just nice. Man, Nick's brother is such a fucking arsehole, isn't he? But Tori is just the best. What's the panel? What's the panel that gets me. The panel. Oh, she's so great. She just is the best. This is it. You are a pathetic little man. She's so good. So yeah, this was a good one, and I liked all of the teacher stuff at the end. That was cute, the teacher stuff. I do think that Heartstopper has a great following. And I know that there was a bit of beef about Alice Oseman and Heartstopper on the Twitter sphere and comments that she made about BL and yaoi. I think we can't know exactly what she has to say about it. It would have to be a much more in-depth interview and a much more in-depth comment, other than what she said, which was generalizations. And she was making very generalized comments. And some of the generalized comments were very negative towards BL and yaoi. But I have to say, you know, like, on the whole, a lot of what is produced and has been produced and what is then brought over into English is, oh, my stomach, is actually, you know, quite problematic. But that's okay. You know, it's like, you don't all want, like, people fall in love with the grey, morally grey character of a story all the time because it's interesting, you know? It's like, we don't all want the sweet and cute. It's not all, oh, let's get together, which is a lot of what the first few volumes of Heartstopper is. It's about cute and sweet and will they, won't they romance. But it's also a lot of other things going on as well. It cannot always be night, but it can't always be, you know, day either. You have to have some sort of conflict, otherwise it's not a very good story, is it? And sometimes that conflict is problematic in terms of sexual consent, which is a big thing in BL and yaoi now, just as much as it was in the past. But it's exactly the same in other romance as well. So, you know, what is the problematic? Like, you'd have to be specific, and I don't think she was, and that's the whole thing. Like, her comments, I'm not saying they're being taken out of context, because it was pretty clear what the context was, but I do think that she would need to be able to qualify her statements a little bit better for us to, you know, slate her. So the whole cancelling of Alice Oseman, I'm not quite there on the bandwagon yet. Because she did use Hayakawa Nojiko as an example, which, yes, everyone also said, you know, that was the scanlated versions. Hey, have we got an English version of Hayakawa Nojiko? No, we have not. Have I said in one of my most popular tweets is how much I love Hayakawa Nojiko's paneling, and I can see that in this. So, for example, the way that she uses this. This is a very Hayakawa Nojiko this is a very Hayakawa Nojiko inspired page, with the way that the panels run, and then you have something coming off it. This, I feel like, when she says she likes Hayakawa Nojiko, and you look at her work, then you're like, okay, this is heavily influenced by Hayakawa Nojiko in that respect. But the fact is, there is no official English Hayakawa Nojiko for us to purchase and buy, which I think is an absolute crying shame. It's a crime. We need some. So yeah. If anything, what came from Alice Oseman's comment, and that it being brought back into the Twitter sphere and everyone talking about it, was actually incredibly positive, because so many people were like, Hayakawa Nojiko! Ah! She's amazing! And yeah, I'm definitely one of them people that are just like, yes, we need some Hayakawa Nojiko. Anyway, so Heartstopper Volume 4, there will be a Volume 5, which I don't know when we're going to get. But it will be apparently the last one. So, and I'm okay with that. And there will be another series of the Netflix drama. And I'm also okay with that too. So, yeah, Heartstopper. I'm really glad I finally got to read this volume. I do need to buy them because as much as it's great to get it from the library, I want it. I want it in my collection. So yeah, this was good to read and finally get to this point. I'm all caught up now. Yay. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to read next. I should really read the TJ Clune, shouldn't I? We'll see. I'll take this back to the library though, because I think everyone, you know, is clamoring for it. Reserves. I think there's about 10 reserves on this copy, so I better bring it back and see what I choose to read next. So I got back from the shops and I picked up my book from the library. So I've got only 2 people. It's called 100 Boyfriends, Brontes Purnell. This slut of a book. I mean, that's an endorsement there. I don't know what this is about. I do think it's a short story collection, I think. But it is. Oh my god! I think I love this book. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but I just saw that it was it had some gay romance or male romance. So this is going in my library pile to read. So hopefully I'll actually just read some of these. But this one looks great, and I think the dedication is the best dedication. I'm gonna need to take a picture of this. This is the kind of book, you know, like all of those little like Instagram videos and stuff, and it's like, oh, the best dedications. That is the best dedication. Anyway, I also got a pair of blue denim jeans. Hopefully it's the right size, and hopefully it will actually fit. But it's only £1, so if it doesn't, it's fine. I can take it back, and they can sell it on to someone else. So I haven't had a pair of blue jeans for ages because they always get worn down either at the bottom of the cuffs or inside my thighs because I got beefy thighs. So yeah, for £1 though, can't go wrong. And I have been purchasing clothes only really from charity shops, and especially from this particular charity shop that has a wee rail of like £1 things, so things that are about to be shipped off somewhere else, and it's like everything on that railing is £1, and I found some amazing bargains there. So yeah, a pair of blue jeans, which I haven't had in my wardrobe for a while. So that was quite successful, pretty good. So I thought I would catch you up on my library books. This is Greg Howard's The Whispers. I did finish this. I started it I don't know how long ago. This video was taking forever. Honestly, I read Heartstopper ages ago. I can't actually remember when I did read it. This is terrible. So this doesn't bode well for the review of this book, because then I started this one because I was going to read House in the Cerulean Sea, and I was like, no, read this one because it's short, and it's a proper children's one. It's like middle grade or something, so you're gonna be able to read it, and it's gonna be dead easy, and you're gonna be able to get through it really quickly. And no, I did not. I kept picking it up and I read a little bit of it, and I was like, this is and then I would just get distracted by lots of other things. So if you look at my Goodreads, you'll be able to see that I can't remember when I started it, but I started it quite quickly after reading volume 4 of Heartstopper, and it's taken me literally weeks to get to the point where I'm like, okay, it's finished. So the story is about Riley, I have to say, very quickly in on this, I was like, okay, even like first chapter, I was like, okay, something's going on about Riley. So Riley, as you can see from chapter 1, there's a little story at the beginning, and you're like, okay, so this is the story about the whispers that Riley's mother would tell him. And the whispers are like floaty light beings. They might be some sort of spirits, like woodland creatures or elves or fairies or something, and they whisper to you. And so these are like supernatural things that might, or fae or something like that. Anyway, this chapter 1 is the world's worst police detective. So from this chapter, where Riley is being interviewed by a man called Frank about what happened to his mother, and Riley's telling him about how he came across his mother asleep on the sofa in the living room, the lounge, sort of reception room that they have, and how there was a strange car outside, and how he just played and he was outside, and that's what happened that day, and he can't remember anything else. And Frank is asking him questions about what happened and how did he feel, and it was at that point I'm like, okay, this is how this story is going to go. And it's very clear from this first chapter that Riley, as the main character, is an unreliable narrator. And not because Riley's only 10 or 11 years old, but because of what's gone on, and the fact that Riley is telling the story about how his mother has gone, and has been gone for 4 months, and you can kind of get what I'm trying to say. But I'm not going to say it was a difficult read in terms of how it was written. I thought it was really well written. I thought it was actually quite captivating and very well written, astute. It had lovely descriptions. It was evocative. It didn't say too much, and yet it was very painterly, the way that the scenes were created. I could always imagine very easily what was going on and what the world looked like, and in my imagination it was there and I could see it. It felt very real. Considering what kind of story this is. It felt very, very real, and I found it out at the end because of the author's note. Then you see, this is why it feels so real. It's because this is practically autobiographical, and that's why it feels so embedded in reality. There's so many interesting characters in it as well. They all feel real. They all feel embedded in reality. This story of Riley, who wants to find out what happened to his mother, but he also wants to find out who the whispers are, what the whispers are. He wants to have another experience that isn't the one that he is actually experiencing. I don't want to spoil it, but if you are interested, then I will spoil it. I'll spoil it a little bit. As a middle grade story, I would say this is really, really... I wouldn't even say it was a great book for every child to read because of the topic. And the topic deals with childhood trauma, especially with regards to bereavement. So that's why I cried at the end. It was hard going. There was definitely a lot of things in it that were difficult to deal with. So when I say it was an easy book to read, I meant like as it's written, but as an easy book to read because of the emotional weight of it. No, it is not. This is quite heavy and quite hard to read, and you're really rooting for Riley, and the whole time it turns out that he's just bereaving you know, he's just in dealing with bereavement, he's just grieving, he's just wanting to not have to deal with the reality, and so he doesn't. His mind just kind of switches off it, or switches on to something else. And so the family that he's having to be around, you know, the dinner that he has with his dad and his brother, the first evening that it starts, and then all of the little glances and things between the people whenever he mentions things to do with his mother, about what he believes is the case and how everyone else is like, no. And all of the people around him, and some of the nasty comments and stuff from other people in the community and other children, and it's his way to cope, it's his way to survive. And so the author's note at the end is just, oh, I had this one, the author's note probably had me tearing up even more than reading the whole thing, because it put everything into masses of context, and you're just like, dude, this must have been so cathartic to write. And yet at the same time, it is a story, and it is a narrative that you can totally acknowledge as being real. And there was little things like the way that he would describe people, or the way that he would describe situations, it felt completely rooted in reality, even though what you were getting was the unreliable narrator, which was the world inside this boy's head rather than the reality of the situation. Because it was real to him. Riley, it was real to Riley. And it was so sad. So in terms of the gayness of it, Riley is like the author as well. He is gay, but he calls it, it's so sad, he calls it his other condition, because he has developed bedwetting, which is always a symptom of something psychological, and it's so difficult for parents to have to deal with. But it is very much, you know, at that point, children will need to see someone to get psychological, you know, help and emotional help, and or a bone therapist. But I do think that that him calling his homosexuality, which for him, he's only 10 or 11, so he knows he has crushes on boys. He's 100% aware of who he is and what he is, but for him, the way that he describes it is so childlike, and that is also rooted in the reality. He calls it his other condition, and the aspects of that around how he is having to deal with his grief and his bereavement, the loss of someone who was his champion, who understood and knew him, and yet he feels, I think that's something else that's not 100% dealt with as well. I just felt really, there was a lot going on in this book, considering it's a middle grade. Is it middle grade even? Like, I think there's a lot. It was emotional, guys. It was emotional. But it took me ages, because I kept getting upset with it and having to just walk away and find something else that was just happier and gayer, you know? So if you'd want to, you know, probably have a good cry and follow a boy who is just trying his best, bless his heart, then The Whispers is a really great book. I would probably give it a really high rating, except I'm not sure if like I said, I'm not the right age range for this. I'm not the target audience, but as an adult, I can read this and go, oh, and just want to wrap poor Riley up in, you know, cotton wool and keep him safe, and well, for the best for him. Yeah, there is grief in here, and and I don't want to spoil it. But I did love the descriptions of, what did he call him? His redneck superhero. It was just... Oh, Smart's dog. Oh, the dog. Tucker. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it. It's the redneck superhero, Dylan. He seems like a good guy in that respect. His friend Carl. Oh, there's just a really great cast of characters, and it's all about... Unfortunately for me, this is the loss of innocence. That's what this book is about. It's the loss of innocence. Which is a sad thing to read about. Honestly, it is. It's that point where children have to grow up. And I think it captures that age 10, 11, 12, that pre-teen, where you're not quite a teenager yet, and people are, you know, it's such a delicate age. Because you're aware of things, but you're not aware of what the true significance of everything is. So I think it captures that loss of innocence, that loss of real childhood really well. So yeah. Anyway, that's my review of this book. It's great, but also really sad. So I'm not sure who I would recommend it to. Maybe give it a go and see what you think. I just got back from the library and I picked up a few books. This is The Fascinators. I think it's supposed to be maybe YA, male romance, I'm not sure. The Taking of Jake Livingston. I'm not sure if this is in any way queer. Maybe it's just horror and YA. I've got a lot of YA. And this one, which I think is YA, a male romance. Becky Albertalli is doing this, so yeah, and this one as well. So I got 3 very interesting looking. I think this could just be a vlog on its own. We'll see. I've got way too many library books now, so I'm gonna have to start reading my library books. So yeah, these are pretty good ones. Okay, so I am finally gonna get down to actually properly starting this. I have read a bit of this in digital and maybe audiobook form, just a few pages. Oh, my stomach. So I don't know. I'll probably just start again because I want to read it in this format. And yeah, I think I think I've read up to about this kind of point. So I'll reread it from the beginning and start properly, and I think this will be the main part of this video. But I do want to say I have read some of the stories in 100 Boyfriends, so I thought I would just tell you about that. I still think this is by far the best dedication. Fuck all y'all. So good for dedication. This is an interesting book. It's got different acts, lots of little short stories. I haven't read that many. I'm only still in Army of Lovers because I'm just going through it as it is. But I'm really finding it interesting. It's very much adult. So it's like the complete opposite of the Whispers. Like the antithesis of the Whispers. But yeah, it's still quite heavy and it's still... This isn't sexy in any way. This is not sexy. I don't find it sexy. It feels real. Again, it feels real and raw. Raw is a better word, I think. And it feels like the next step. Like The Whispers was the loss of innocence and the sadness of that. And then this is like the next step along, and that's like the danger of the adult world and the danger of sex and drugs and yeah, it's like gay, sex, drugs and rock and roll, although I haven't come to the rock and roll part yet. So I've read In the Morning, which is quite interesting, about having a boyfriend, but they're not really a boyfriend. It's just a guy that you have sex with. But it's like very explicit. Then there was Hooker Boys Part 1, which was stories about guys who do tricks. And some of those stories were very kind of sad, really. There's a sadness to it. There's a sadness to some of these stories in the fact that for me, as I'm asexual and I'm a woman and I'm white. And so for me, there's a lot that I can't understand. That doesn't mean that I'm not empathetic towards, but it's like a general understanding. Can I truly understand the feelings of some of these characters? And the reason that I can't is maybe due to my asexuality, it's maybe due to my whiteness, it's maybe due to my gender, my privilege, my background, my upbringing, the country I'm in, like loads of factors. But that doesn't mean that I'm not empathetic to the stories, and it doesn't mean I'm not finding them amazing. And the narrator's voice is so strong, so strong. But the story that I just read, this one, oh, I loved it. But also, oh, Inherited Winter Coats, and it's just a story about a man whose father has died, and he's going to collect his inheritance, and his inheritance is like some antique guns and some what you'd call vintage coats now, like cool coats from the 60s and 70s and stuff like that, and just the experience of going there. But the way that he writes, Brontes Purnell, the way that he writes this short story makes me feel like I'm there. It's real. And I can feel the heat and I can see the light, and it's like a yellow light between Tennessee and Alabama. You know, they're traveling. I can imagine it all so well. And tan greenhounds, everything's so descriptive, and yet everything's so matter of fact. It's no flowery language, and yet it's like someone's just telling you the story. It's like he just sat down and dictated it. But the bit where he was standing in the old church and his partner, his lover, was taking a photograph, and for a second, he says, I sat silent for a full 20 seconds because he couldn't remember the name of the man he was with, for no reason other than, once again, it's grief. It's that sense of loss. It's that sense of being in a place that you used to know, where it's changed and you feel like you're the same, but also you've changed because the people you're with are different. So he's traveling with his partner at the time, who's a white man. He's a black man, and he's going to collect his inheritance, which is not a huge, of massive monetary value. It's of some emotional value. And so it's like that little moment of the grief is there, the bereavement is there. So that one was quite impactful for being such a little short story. They are quite short. So I'm on to the boyfriend section now here. They are so yeah, this is interesting. I'm really enjoying this one. I'm gonna just like intersperse them, and I might not finish this in this video. I might just carry this on to the next video because I want to take my time and just enjoy them. But I'm actually really loving this. It's very raw. Yeah. When I say that I find it difficult to understand, it's that I can't see a world, and I'm so lucky, I can't see a world where I would feel the need or the desire to turn tricks, as it were. And And I'm not sure if that's because, well, for many reasons, but this puts the experience of young gay black men into a particular context. And I'm enjoying that because that's outside of the box that I usually read. So yeah, I'm really liking this, and I love the style of the writing. I love the narrator's voice in this. It's really impactful. But yeah. So this is the book that I've been putting off for years. It feels like it's not, but for months anyway. I do need to read this. Everyone says I need to. But yeah, so we're gonna get this started as well. So I have got to the 100-page mark. It's okay so far. I actually have read, I think, up to about page 70. Around here, around page 70 was what I'd read up to. So I mean, it says on the back, and I'm pretty much to this point. So everything that they say here is kind of up to the page 100 mark. So yeah, it's okay. I can't say that I'm loving it though yet. Hopefully. It's a lot of pressure, guys. It's a lot of pressure when everyone is in love with a book and you're just like, well, we'll see about that, won't we? Is it everyone minus me, or am I going to end up loving this as well, like everyone seems to? Anyway, this is my dinner now, I guess. I had not very much today. I've not been eating a lot. But yeah, a bit of salad and some vegetable wraps. So yeah, I'm going to carry on with a bit more of House in the Cerulean Sea. Hopefully I'll check in around the 200-page mark. Chapter 11. We'll see if I manage it. We'll see. But I have enjoyed meeting the kids so far. They all seem interesting and kind of amusing. So we'll see. That's one of the things that most people say about the book, is that the children are actually good fun and you end up liking them as characters. So far, so good. The one who was the bellhop, oh, what a cutie pie. So yeah, and the cat. And there's a cat. I love the cat. So far, so good, I guess. Okay, so it has been a while. I keep getting distracted. I'm still at the 100 or so page mark. I will try and get this read. I don't know why, like I enjoyed what I read, but a lot of it was a reread. So now I'm going into what I haven't ever read before, but I stopped at the 100-page mark and I have not gone back to it, so I really need to. And I just thought I'd show you what I'm eating as well, because hey, this is what this channel is, food and books. So it's like a salad with some honey, ginger, pork and egg, some glass noodles and a sort of chicken soy broth. It's really hot, so I'm going to dip my glass noodles into that and have my salad and stuff. It's quite a lot, but it's probably going to be my one big meal of the day. And hopefully not give me too much of a food comatose. So I can actually get some more of this read. So we'll see how far I can get with it. I'll let you know. It's been weeks. It's really bad. So I've managed to get to page 229. So I've just managed to get through the next 100 pages. And the pace is picking up a lot more. There's a lot more interest with the fact that there are different characters. I love the children. They're super cute. It's very emotional. I like how Linus is starting to shed some of his hard exterior. It was a lot faster. The second 100 pages was a lot faster than getting through the first 100. So I am halfway through and I'm really enjoying it. And I am at a point where Linus and Arthur are starting to chat a bit more about things. So they might be getting closer too. But I have to say, I love the kids. The kids are just delightful. And I'm having some gyoza. I've spent most of the day doing some computing stuff and then spent half the day Supposed to be doing computing stuff and working on business things, but having to update my Wi-Fi or broadband contract, and God, it took forever. I hate being an adult when you have to deal with this nonsense. What was worse though? I'm just saying this. Like, I got a letter through saying you're at the end of the contract, and this is how much you pay, and this is what you get for the contract. Do you want to extend the contract? Here's the deal we'll give you. It's pretty much the same deal you're on. So I was like, great. So I went on to my account online, and it turns out that the deal wasn't there. And so I went on to one of these like chat things with someone, and they were like, oh, this is the best deal we can give you. And it was like £4 or £5 a month more. And I was like, oh, that's quite expensive. And I've just been to Money Supermarket, and so I can probably get a better deal, and I don't want to change, but I'm probably going to have to. So thank you very much anyway. Thanks, bye. And the guy suddenly came back with like, oh, well, we can do this offer instead. And I was like, dude, that was what was on the letter. And then when I talk to you, you're saying, no, I can't have that. So you were lying. And it made me feel like I was haggling for a better deal when I wasn't. I was actually just being genuine, saying that's quite expensive and I could probably get a cheaper deal. So thanks anyway, bye. And that's when he's like, oh no, how about this offer? I was like, that's not how it works, or at least that's not how it should work. In the UK, with the world as it is now, crazy. Like, I hate this. I hate it. So while I was having to wait for people to get back to me on this stupid bot conversation thing, I was actually reading some of this. So even though it was a terrible experience, I was like, I'm just going to go into this lovely little universe here instead. So I'm really enjoying it now. It's picked up. I'm much, much happier. This helped my sanity stay this afternoon when I really wanted to just chuck my laptop out of the window and be like, I hate the world, ah! So yeah, this world isn't okay. This one's easier to be in at the moment, which is saying something. Anyway, I have a client coming over soon for an evening session, so I'm going to quickly scoff all of this gyoza, vegetable gyoza, and some lovely ginger, pickled ginger, and my little dip, which is very vinegary. So yeah, so far this book is much better. I like this book. So it is the next day. I am now at page 300. I didn't even notice that until I thought, oh, I better do an update. I wonder how much I've read, and it turns out I'm on page 300. So I've done quite well. This is quite an emotional moment, and I'm in the middle of a scene. But I wanted to do a couple of things, like post an update on my Patreon and things like that. But I was like, oh, I'll just read a little bit more while I'm waiting for the computer to load and things like that. And yeah, so I'm on page 300, and I'm in the middle of quite a dramatic and emotional scene, and I've only got 100 pages left. I think I definitely come round to the fact that, yes, I understand why this is a good book, and I have been enjoying it. The last 200 pages have just been so much easier to read than the first 100, and I guess that's probably a reflection of the emotional tone and the fact that Linus's life was so grey and kind of dull, and there wasn't much going for it, and you really have to set up the tone of that to be able to then show how bright and colourful and wonderful the life on the island is, and with the children, and how fantastic the children are. They went to the village, and of course that gave me anxiety because I thought, oh, it's going to be awful. And there were certainly some moments when I felt bad because the children would be hurt. So you're definitely on their side and everything. Even when Lucy hurts Marty, you're like, yeah, fair play. It's a very... I do understand why people say this is very much like a modern fairy tale. But yeah, I'm in the middle of a very emotional scene. I'm gonna go and make myself some coffee because it's quite late in the day already, but I'm not ready for like dinner or a heavy lunch or anything. So I might just have a cup of coffee and keep reading because this is quite, yeah, it's kind of emotional. I wonder what's gonna happen. So So I finished it. I just cried and cried and cried. I cried a lot. I think the point that broke me was when Theodore bit the button. And it was just like, oh, Theodore's the cutest. Oh, the kids are the cutest. The kids are the cutest. This made me think of the fact that as a teacher, when I was in Japan, every year we had graduation. And every year I would be crying, saying goodbye. And it was the worst when it was what I considered my kids, because I got them from the first day of the first year they were there, and then their final graduation ceremony on their last day, and there I am just in absolute floods of tears having to say goodbye. And that's the whole thing of having to say goodbye. It was good. I liked it. I can see what it was doing. I can see the message it's trying to send. And I know the background people have said what it was what some of the inspiration for it was, and people say, you know, how awful that is, and I know some people have not enjoyed the aspect of it being based on something that is historically true and based on the systematic discrimination of a people, but that's kind of what the whole book's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about bringing this to light. And yes, it's a metaphor, but what's wrong with a fucking metaphor? If you can pick up on it, I don't know. Like, because in the fact that if you were someone who was, I'm not sure if it's American or if it's Canadian, so I need to check that exactly. But if it was based on the Canadians setup, and you were a native Canadian or native of the Canadian land, and you found this offensive, then fair enough. You know, feel free to find this offensive. But the fact is, when I was reading this, I found so many parallels in so many historical societies. If the whole see something, say something. If you were a Jew in the Nazi Germany, if you were a German in, you know, London during the bombings, if you were, you know, a Scot in Scotland, but you were from the Highlands during our civil wars. I mean, if you were historically an underdog of any place, then you could see something in this. If you can even now, I mean, think about it right now in the UK, we have a government that is systematically overreaching and systematically trying to put down, and it's not working for the benefit of all people. I mean, I'm not magical, but I would like it if my government worked for me as well as it did for big business and media giants, you know? So there's a lot to be said about the idea that there are themes in this that are universal human themes, because humans are shitty people and they do this to each other. Whether you're from one particular part of the world or one particular, you know, time in history, it doesn't matter. Humans have done shitty things to other humans throughout the course of history in the world. So you could read the parallels in this. If you are empathetic, you can see what this book is trying to say. And it's not trying to say that this is a good thing. It's trying to say that it's a fucking bad thing. So I can see why. I hope that it's gone full circle and people that like it for the reasons. That it's a good book. It's a beautiful story. It's lovely. And yes, I do want to copy myself. But the fact that for the longest time I was like, oh, I don't know if it's gonna be, you know, problematic. In what way is it problematic? Then it shows a light on the fact that there's discrimination. Yeah. I do think, you know, it depends what is said, and I might need to look into that exactly to see. But I don't think I don't think TJ Klune is necessarily going, okay, I'm going to try and exploit a group of people and their history and the discrimination that they have felt for years, and I'm going to do that to make profit for myself. Like, I'm going to continue their using these people for my benefit as a white person. Like, I don't think that's how he set out to do it. If anything, it's to highlight that there is still in this world this kind of thing going on, and we need to shine a light on it. And like Linus does at the end, you know, highlight it and promote it and say, hey, this is what's happening and we need to stop this, you know? So it's a beautiful little epilogue. It was lovely. It was great. I loved it. What can I say? It was good, just like everyone said it was going to. You were right, people. You were right. It's a good book. What can I say? I now need to get a copy. Damn it. So this is everything that I read in this particular vlog. I have to say I absolutely love the Heartstopper graphic novel. Obviously, it's a really good one, and I have since purchased it, so I now have my own copy. The Whispers as a middle grade, it was really interesting and different, and very sad and about loss and bereavement. So I'm not sure how much I want to go into middle grade, although obviously I have some YA to read, which I'm interested in. I was more excited about it when I ordered it. Now that I've got them, I actually have to read them, and it's like, oh no. The 100 Boyfriends by Brontes Purnell was really adult, very adult, and kind of raw and stark, and it was definitely very short little stories, but a lot of depth and a little bit too much realism for me, for this particular person's experience of life, or from this person's friend group experience, that kind of thing. It felt very raw and a little bit less of the romantic side of things, very much like stories about loss, but also about just sex and prostitution and things like that, which I was like, it was very different. It was very real, and that's okay if that's what you're after and that's what you want to read. And then of course I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which took me forever to read, because technically I started it in October last year and I've only just finished it now. It took me like ages to read 50 pages in the digital format that I had, and sometimes digital books just don't do it for me. Like, that was the same when I had If This Gets Out. It took me forever to read that one because I had such difficulty reading it in its digital form through NetGalley, and yet as soon as I got the book out of the library, it was fine and I could read it. And it took me a while. It took me a while to reread the 50 pages, and then I got to 100 pages, and then I got completely distracted by other things. And so it did take me a long time to read The House in the Cerulean Sea, or at least the first 100 pages. And then it took me absolutely no time at all to just fly through the last 300. It was like, boom, done. And yes, by the end of it, crying tears and going, okay, I get it now, I get it. Like, I understand. Yes, I understand. It is a very good book. And in the same way that The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was a really good book that everyone was like, oh, it's great, you'll love it. And then I read it and was like, yeah, that was good. In the same way this is. And it does have a very cute, sweet relationship between Linus and Arthur. But it's the children that you fall in love with. It's the children. For me, anyway. Obviously, I said at the beginning of this video that I was going to try and do an audiobook, which was the sequel, and then I'd have to read the original, and of course I haven't had time for that, so I get distracted by things. I am very much a mood reader, so when I have a pile of books that I'm supposed to read, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Which is why sometimes the library should just get one book at a time, just one book. But I do have a wee stack of books that I have to read. I may as well show you them. So I have The Taking of Jake Livingston, and I have The Fascinators, and I have The Gravity of Us. So those are the three that I'll probably be reading in the next video. So look forward to that. I also do have an audiobook version of a book that I own, so I might read that one too, just because. But I think it'll be a while before the next library one comes out. I have a lot of NetGalley titles as well to read and write reviews for. So in terms of the library though, it's giving me lots, giving me plenty. I have lots of things in the library that I would want to read, and I'm very happy with it. The House in Cerulean Sea though, yeah, I might have to purchase my own copy. Which is the whole point of having libraries, not to buy things and not to spend money, and yet I already have another. I bought my own volume of Volume 4 for Heartstopper, and now I'm like, okay, House in the Cerulean Sea, yes, you will need to purchase your own copy of that. It was beautiful and lovely. So I'm not sure if it's doing the service it's supposed to. Anyway, I'm glad I did this. I've got another lot of things to read, and I'm glad I read them. I'm going to take these back to the library now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm 365-801, and I make videos about male romance, yaoi, BL manga, all that good stuff. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Take care, everyone. I will see you in the next video. Tell me what you thought of The House in Cerulean Sea. Did it take you 8 or 9 months to read it? Surely not. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!